The message came on a Tuesday morning, cutting through Earth's deep space communication arrays like a blade through silk. Captain Lee Jin-woo was drinking his third cup of coffee aboard the exploration vessel Aegis when the priority alert flashed across his console. The red warning lights bathed the bridge in an angry glow that made his crew look up from their morning duties. "Sir, we're getting something strange," said Communications Officer Park Min-ji, her fingers dancing across the control panel. "It's not from Earth Command. The signal is coming from outside our solar system." Jin-woo set down his coffee cup and walked over to her station. The message was unlike anything they had ever received. It was clean, precise, and somehow felt ancient, despite being transmitted through technology far beyond anything humans had developed. "Can you decode it?" he asked. "Already working on it, sir. The computer says it's using mathematical constants as a base language, universal concepts that any spacefaring species would understand." Min-ji paused, her eyes widening as the translation began to appear on her screen. "Sir, you need to see this." The message was short, but carried the weight of an avalanche. It claimed to be from something called the Galactic Council, representing 47 different species across the galaxy. They had been watching Earth for some time, they said, and had decided that humans were too dangerous to remain unsupervised. Jin-woo read the message twice, then called his senior staff to the bridge. Within minutes, Science Officer Yoon Da-yoon, Security Chief Han Soo-jin, and Navigator Kim Bo-ram had gathered around the communications console, their faces reflecting the same mixture of excitement and worry that Jin-woo felt. "They want us to surrender," Da-eun said, reading over the message. Again. "Complete territorial surrender of all space beyond Earth's moon, and we have to accept what they call protective custody." Protective custody. Soo-jin laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That sounds like a fancy way of saying prison." The message went on to explain that humans had been classified as a potential threat due to their aggressive nature and rapid technological development. The Council had observed human behavior for 50 years, watching wars, conflicts, and the development of weapons that could destroy entire cities. They had concluded that humanity was too violent to be allowed freedom in the galaxy. 72 hours, Bo-ram read aloud. "They're giving us 72 hours to respond with total surrender, or they'll take action to protect the galactic community from us." Jin-woo stared at the message, his mind racing. First contact with alien life, something humanity had dreamed about for centuries, and it came in the form of an ultimatum. He thought about his daughter back on Earth, probably getting ready for school right now, completely unaware that beings from other worlds were debating whether her species deserved freedom. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command," he ordered. "Priority 1, scrambled channel." The call connected within minutes, and Admiral Park So-min appeared on the main screen. Even through the grainy long-distance transmission, Jin-woo could see the stress lines around her eyes. She had already received the message. "Captain Lee," she said without preamble, "how fast can you get the Aegis back to Earth?" 18 hours at maximum burn, Admiral, but our engines aren't designed for that kind of sustained output." "Do it anyway. We need every ship we can get." So-min paused, looking at something off-screen. "Captain, what's your assessment of this message? Are we dealing with a legitimate threat?" Jin-woo considered his words carefully. He had spent his entire career in space, pushing the boundaries of human exploration. He knew better than most how vast and empty the galaxy seemed from their perspective. But if this council was real, if they truly represented dozens of species across thousands of star systems, then humanity was a very small fish in a very large ocean. "Admiral, if they have the technology to monitor us for 50 years without us knowing, and if they can send messages across interstellar distances in real time, then yes, this is a legitimate threat." The connection ended, and Jin-woo turned to his crew. They were looking at him with the kind of trust that both honored and terrified him. These people would follow his orders without question, even if those orders led them into impossible danger. "Set course for Earth, maximum burn," he said, "and send a message to all our deep space stations. Tell them to come home." Meanwhile, 60 light-years away, Commander Hyun-soo of the Veltari Enforcement Fleet was reviewing the same message that had been sent to Earth. But unlike the humans, he was not worried. He was bored. Hyun-soo had overseen the pacification of 17 different species in his career. The process was always the same. First came the ultimatum, which usually resulted in panicked communications between the species leaders. Then came the desperate attempts at negotiation, followed by the inevitable surrender when they realized the hopelessness of their situation. The Veltari had been monitoring human transmissions for decades, and what they had seen was both fascinating and disturbing. Humans seemed to delight in violence, creating elaborate fictional stories about war and conflict for entertainment. They had developed weapons capable of destroying their own planet, and yet somehow managed not to use them in their most recent global conflicts. "Commander," said his aide, a younger Veltari named Kethlon, "our analysis suggests the humans will likely respond within the first day. Their communication patterns indicate high stress levels across their military networks." Hyun-soo nodded absently. He was reading reports about human military capabilities, and while their technology was primitive by galactic standards, they had shown remarkable creativity in developing ways to kill each other. Chemical weapons, nuclear bombs, kinetic projectiles, biological warfare. The list went on and on. "What kind of ship do you think they'll send?" Kethlon asked. "Something small," Hyun-soo replied. "Probably their best shuttle, carrying maybe a dozen of their leaders. They'll try to negotiate, maybe offer some kind of tribute or promise to limit their expansion. It's what they all do." The commander turned his attention to other matters. The human response was just another routine task in his long career of managing primitive species. He had no way of knowing that at that very moment, in a secure facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, President Kim Tae-hyun was meeting with the most dangerous people on Earth. The room was deep underground, surrounded by layers of concrete and steel that could survive a direct nuclear strike. Around the table sat the leaders of Earth's military, intelligence services, and scientific communities. They had been planning for this day since the first radio signals from space had been detected. In the 1960s, "Ladies and gentlemen," President Kim said, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what they were discussing, "we always knew this day might come. The question is not whether we can fight. The question is whether we should." General Song Hye-jin, the youngest person in the room at 45, spoke first. "Mr. President, we've been preparing for extraterrestrial contact for 60 years. Our deep space monitoring systems have been tracking their communications for the past decade. We know they're real, and we know they're powerful. But do we know?" "How powerful?" asked Dr. Yoon Da-yoon, the government's chief xenobiologist. "Their message suggests they've been watching us, but passive observation is very different from active military capability." Intelligence Director Shin Dong-hyun opened a thick folder in front of him. "Our analysis of their communication technology suggests they're using quantum entanglement for instantaneous messaging across galactic distances. That's at least a century ahead of our current capabilities. But here's what's interesting. In 50 years of monitoring their transmissions, we've never detected anything that looks like military communications." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. President Kim leaned forward in his chair. You suggesting they don't have a military?" "I'm suggesting they don't think like us," Shin replied. "Every species we've analyzed through their transmissions appears to be peaceful, cooperative, and completely lacking in what we would recognize as aggressive instincts." Admiral Park So-min, who had joined the meeting via secure transmission from her orbital command station, nodded slowly. "That would explain why they're so afraid of us. To a species that has never known war, human behavior must seem completely insane. President Kim stood up and walked to the large screen showing Earth from space. His planet, his people, his responsibility. The decision he made in the next few minutes would determine the fate of every human being alive, and every human being yet to be born. Admiral Park, he said without turning around. Status report on Project Prometheus. Fully operational, Mr. President. All systems tested and ready for deployment. Kim turned back to face the room. Then I think it's time we showed our new neighbors what humanity is really capable of. The Prometheus looked like nothing special as it drifted through space toward the Council station. From the outside, it appeared to be exactly what the aliens expected, a small, unremarkable human shuttle with basic propulsion systems and crude metal plating. The disguise was perfect, hiding the most advanced warship humanity had ever built beneath layers of false hull plating and holographic projectors. Captain Lee Jin-woo stood on the bridge, watching the massive alien structure grow, larger on the main screen. The Council station was unlike anything humans had ever imagined. It looked like a giant crystal flower floating in space, with dozens of delicate arms reaching out from a central hub. Each arm was several kilometers long and glowed with soft, beautiful light. "It's enormous," whispered Navigator Kim Bo-ram, her voice full of wonder and fear. "Our entire ship could fit inside just one of those arms." "That's the point," replied Dr. Yoon Da-yoon, who was studying the station through her instruments. "They're trying to impress us, make us feel small and helpless before we even set foot inside." Jin-woo nodded, but he wasn't impressed. He was calculating. The station was beautiful, but it was also completely defenseless. No weapons, no shields, no armor plating. It was designed by beings who had never needed to protect themselves from anything. "Sir," said Communications Officer Park Min-ji, "we're getting a transmission from the station. They're directing us to Docking Bay 94. "Docking Bay 94? Security Chief Han Soo-jin raised an eyebrow. "Out of how many?" "According to our scans, they have over 300 docking bays," Min-ji replied. "Bay 94 is in the maintenance section. They're treating us like a garbage truck." Jin-woo smiled grimly. "Perfect. Let them think humans were just another inferior species coming to beg for mercy. Acknowledge their transmission and follow their directions, and remind everyone, we're supposed to be scared primitives. Act the part." Meanwhile, inside the station, Commander Hyun-soo was preparing for what he assumed would be a routine surrender ceremony. The Veltari were tall, elegant beings, with pale blue skin and large, gentle eyes. Like all the species in the Galactic Council, they had evolved from creatures that were hunted rather than hunters. Their ancestors had survived by being smart, fast, and cooperative, not by fighting. "The human ship is smaller than we expected," reported Security Chief Nalthor, a member of the Kethni species. The Kethni looked like tall, thin deer with hands instead of hooves. "Our sensors show only basic life support and primitive propulsion. No weapons detected." Hyun-soo nodded, unsurprised. "How many humans are aboard?" "Approximately 25, based on life sign readings. Much smaller than most species send for first contact. They probably don't have anyone else qualified for space travel," Hyun-soo said dismissively. "Their technological development has been extremely uneven. They can split atoms but still use chemical rockets to reach orbit." In the Grand Council chamber, representatives from 47 different species were gathering for the ceremony. They came in all shapes and sizes, but they all shared one common trait. They were peaceful beings who had never known the horror of predator and prey relationships. The Felnari looked like giant butterflies with gossamer wings. The Thornish resembled walking trees with faces in their bark. The Quindal were small, furry creatures that communicated through musical tones. All of them were herbivores or filter feeders, species that had developed intelligence and technology, without ever needing to hunt or kill. High Arbiter Velnox, the eldest member of the council, took his place at the center of the chamber. He was a Veltari, like Hyonsu, but ancient even by their standards. He had overseen the peaceful integration of dozens of species into the galactic community. "The humans approach," he announced in the melodious tones of galactic standard. "Let us prepare to welcome another species into the light of civilization." Back on the Prometheus, Jin-Woo was giving final instructions to his away team. Major Han Soo-jin had selected 20 of Earth's most elite soldiers for the mission, but they were dressed in simple environmental suits that made them look like maintenance workers. "Remember," Jin-Woo said, "we're peaceful explorers who are scared and confused. No sudden movements, no aggressive postures. Let them think we're helpless." "What about our equipment?" asked Sergeant Park J. Min, checking his concealed weapons for the 10th time. "Everything is hidden in the suit systems. Emergency beacon, weapons, armor plating. All of it looks like life support equipment to their scans." Dr. Yoon Da-eun was reviewing her notes about alien psychology. "These species have no concept of deception in warfare because they've never had warfare. They'll see exactly what they expect to see, inferior beings coming to surrender." The docking procedure was surprisingly smooth. The alien station's computer systems were incredibly advanced, guiding the Prometheus into the maintenance bay with precision that human technology couldn't match. But Jin-Woo noticed something interesting. The docking bay was completely automated. No guards, no security personnel, no one even watching them arrive. "They're not taking any precautions at all," observed Soo-jin as she watched the bay doors close behind them. "Either they're incredibly confident or they're incredibly naive." "Both," Da-eun replied. "Their entire civilization is built on trust and cooperation. The idea that someone might lie to them or attack them is literally incomprehensible." As the human team prepared to disembark, sensors throughout the station were recording their every move. In the security center, Nalthor was watching the readings with mild interest. "Curious," he said to his assistant. "The humans move very smoothly for a bipedal species, very coordinated." "Perhaps they evolved from climbers," suggested the assistant, a young Felnari whose wings shimmered with nervous energy. "Tree-dwelling species often develop good balance." Nalthor nodded, not recognizing what he was actually seeing. The humans moved with the fluid grace of apex predators, every step calculated and purposeful. But to beings who had never seen a predator, it just looked like unusual agility. The human team stepped off their ship and into the alien environment. The artificial gravity was lighter than Earth normal, and the air had a sweet floral scent that reminded Jin-Woo of his grandmother's garden. Everything was designed to be beautiful and calming, with soft lighting and gentle curves. "It's like walking inside a flower," whispered one of the soldiers. "Stay focused," Soo-jin reminded them quietly. "Beautiful or not, we're in enemy territory." A delegation of aliens was waiting to escort them to the council chamber. The escort was led by a Veltari diplomat named Serendal, whose job was to help primitive species feel comfortable during first contact procedures. "Welcome, humans of Earth," Serendal said in carefully pronounced English. "I am Serendal of the Veltari. I will guide you to the council chamber where your leaders will formally surrender your territorial claims." Jin-Woo noticed the casual assumption in the alien's words. Not negotiate or discuss, surrender. These beings were so confident in their superiority that they couldn't imagine any other outcome. "We are honored by your attention," Jin-Woo replied, playing his role perfectly. "We hope to find a peaceful solution that benefits everyone." As they walked through the station's corridors, the human team got their first real look at galactic civilization. The architecture was breathtaking, with soaring ceilings and walls that seemed to glow with their own inner light. Everywhere they looked, they saw aliens going about their daily business, researching, creating art, debating philosophy. But Da-eun noticed something that chilled her blood. In all the aliens they passed, she saw the same behavior patterns. They moved in groups, always watching for threats, always ready to flee. Even in their own safe spaces, surrounded by friends and allies, they acted like prey animals. "Doctor," Sujin said quietly, "are you seeing what I'm seeing?" "Flight responses," Da-un whispered back. "Every single one of them. When they notice us, their first instinct is to move away." "They're afraid of us," Jinwoo realized. "Even when they think we're helpless, they're still afraid." The implications were staggering. These aliens had built an incredible civilization spanning the galaxy, but they were still controlled by the same instincts that had kept their ancestors alive millions of years ago. They were prey, and somewhere deep in their genetic memory, they knew that predators existed. The escort led them through increasingly grand corridors as they approached the council chamber. Other aliens stopped to stare at the humans, their large eyes filled with curiosity and worry. Some of them had children with them, small, delicate beings that stayed close to their parents. "They've never seen anything like us," Da-Yun observed. "Look at their posture, their body language. We make them nervous just by existing." "Good," Sujin said grimly. "Maybe that will make this easier." As they reached the final approach to the council chamber, Serendal turned to address the human delegation. "Before you enter," the alien said, "you should know that the council chamber contains representatives from 47 species. Do not be overwhelmed by the sight. Simply approach the center platform and wait for High Arbiter Velnox to address you." Jinwoo nodded solemnly. "We understand. We're ready." But as the massive doors began to open and the sound of hundreds of alien voices filled the corridor, he couldn't help but smile slightly. The council chamber was a sight that would have taken the breath away from any human artist or architect. It rose in a perfect spiral toward a crystal dome that showed the stars beyond, with hundreds of platforms floating at different levels throughout the space. Each platform held representatives from different species, creating a three-dimensional parliament that seemed to defy gravity itself. Captain Lee Jin-woo and his team walked across the polished floor toward the center platform, their footsteps echoing in the vast space. Around them, hundreds of alien eyes watched their every move. The silence was complete except for the soft humming of the station's systems and the occasional whispered comment in languages that sounded like music or wind through leaves. High Arbiter Velnox stood on the central platform, his tall form draped in robes that seemed to be made of liquid starlight. Behind him, holographic displays showed images of the human homeworld, cities, oceans, forests, and the pale moon that had been humanity's first step into space. "Humans of the third planet of Sul," Velnox began, his voice carrying easily throughout the chamber despite being barely above a whisper. "You stand before the Galactic Council, representing 47 species and over 10,000 worlds. We have watched your kind for 50 of your years, and we have seen enough." More holographic displays appeared around the chamber showing human history from the aliens' perspective. Wars, weapons, destruction, carefully edited to show humanity at its worst. Nuclear explosions, chemical weapons, cities in flames. "Your species has shown a disturbing tendency toward violence and aggression," Velnox continued. "In just the past century, you have developed weapons capable of destroying your own world. You wage wars over resources, territory, and ideas. You create fictional entertainment that glorifies conflict and death." Jinwoo listened quietly, his face showing the appropriate mixture of shame and fear that the aliens expected. But inside, he was analyzing everything he saw. The chamber was designed to intimidate, but it was also completely defenseless. No weapons, no security barriers, no emergency shields. These beings had never needed to protect themselves from anything. Therefore, Velnox announced, "The Galactic Council has decided that humanity poses a potential threat to galactic peace and stability. You will surrender all territorial claims beyond your home system and accept protective custody. You will be relocated to suitable worlds where you can live peacefully under Council supervision." the chamber filled with the alien equivalent of murmurs of approval, musical trills, harmonic vibrations, and soft clicking sounds that somehow conveyed satisfaction and relief. Ambassador Cho Minho, who had been chosen to speak for humanity, stepped forward. He was a small, gentle-looking man who had spent his career in diplomatic service. He bowed deeply to the High Arbiter, a gesture that seemed to please the assembled aliens. "High Arbiter," Cho said, his voice respectful and humble. "We are honored that such advanced beings have taken notice of our small world. Before we respond to your generous offer, may I ask a question?" Velnox nodded graciously. "You may speak." "In your 50,000 years of galactic civilization, have you ever encountered a predator species?" The question hung in the air like a stone thrown into still water. Around the chamber, the alien representatives began to shift uncomfortably. Many of them had never even heard the word predator before, except in theoretical discussions about extinct ecosystems. "I do not understand the relevance of your question," Velnox replied carefully. Dr. Yoon Da-Yoon stepped forward, her movements causing several nearby aliens to instinctively lean back. "High Arbiter, if I may explain, every species represented in this chamber appears to be what we would classify as a primary consumer: herbivores, filter feeders, beings that derive nutrition from non-animal sources." She gestured to the hovering platforms around them. "The Felnari, with their delicate wings and proboscis, clearly evolved from nectar feeders. The Kethni show classic prey animal characteristics: large eyes for spotting danger, long legs for running, herding behavior for protection. More uncomfortable shifting rippled through the chamber. Da-Yoon was describing things that most of these species had never thought about, genetic memories buried so deep they had forgotten they existed. "The Veltari," she continued, looking directly at High Arbiter Velnox, "show the most interesting adaptations: enhanced hearing, light bone structure, reflexes optimized for escape rather than confrontation. Your ancestors were clearly prey animals of some kind." Commander Hyeon-Soo, watching from his position near the main platform, felt a strange chill run down his spine. The human female was describing his people's evolutionary history with unsettling accuracy, but she was doing it in a way that made it sound like weakness. "What is your point?" Velnox asked, his melodious voice showing the first hints of strain. "Ambassador," Cho smiled, and several aliens in the front rows involuntarily stepped backward. There was something about the human expression that triggered deep, primal warnings in their nervous systems. "The point, High Arbiter, is that humanity evolved differently." Lieutenant Colonel Park Jae-min moved smoothly across the chamber floor, his path taking him past several of the lower platforms. He wasn't trying to be threatening, he was simply walking. But his movements had an effect that no one had expected. Everywhere he passed, aliens moved away from him. It wasn't conscious thought that drove them. It was millions of years of evolutionary programming screaming at them to flee from something that moved like death itself. "Humans are persistence hunters," Da-Un explained, her voice taking on the tone of a teacher giving a biology lesson. "We evolved to chase down animals that were bigger, faster, and stronger than we were. We ran them to exhaustion, then killed them with tools we made specifically for that purpose." The word "killed" seemed to echo strangely in the chamber. Many of the alien languages didn't even have a proper translation for the concept, having to borrow words from ancient dialects or create new ones entirely. "Our ancestors didn't run from predators," Cho continued, his smile never wavering. "We became the predators. Every human in this room is descended from beings that survived by hunting and killing things that would have terrified your ancestors." High Arbiter Velnox was beginning to understand that something had gone very wrong with his carefully planned intimidation ceremony. The humans weren't acting like any species he had ever encountered. They showed no fear, no submission, no recognition. of their obviously inferior position. "You speak of violence as if it were something to be proud of," he said, trying to regain control of the situation. "Not proud," Jinwoo replied, speaking for the first time. "Just honest about what we are." He looked up at the floating platforms, making eye contact with dozens of alien representatives. Each time his gaze fell on one of them, they seemed to shrink back slightly. "You've been watching us for 50 years, he continued. "You've seen our wars, our weapons, our conflicts. But I don't think you understand what you were really seeing." Dr. Da-Yun pulled out a small device that projected holographic images into the center of the chamber. But these weren't images of human destruction. They were images of human ingenuity. "This is a human spear," she said, showing a simple wooden shaft with a sharpened stone tip. "Invented 40,000 years ago. The first tool designed specifically to kill something at a distance." The image changed to show a bow and arrow, then a crossbow, then a rifle, then a guided missile. Every advancement in human technology has been driven by our need to become better hunters, better killers. We developed mathematics to calculate projectile trajectories. We developed chemistry to create explosives. We developed physics to build weapons that could destroy targets we couldn't even see. The aliens around the chamber were becoming visibly agitated. Some of the smaller species had begun making distress calls, high-pitched sounds that their people used to warn of danger. "But the most important thing you need to understand," Cho said, his voice cutting through the growing noise, "is that we didn't just develop weapons. We developed the mentality to use them." Commander Hyon Su finally found his voice. "Are you threatening us?" "No," Jinwoo replied calmly. "We're explaining why your threat means nothing to us." The captain touched a control on his wrist, and suddenly his environmental suit began to shift and change. What had looked like simple life support equipment revealed itself to be advanced armor plating. The other humans around the chamber did the same, their disguises falling away to show them as what they really were. "You gave us an ultimatum," Jinwoo continued as his armor finished its transformation. "Surrender or face the consequences, but you made one critical error in your calculations." "What error?" Velnox demanded, his composure finally beginning to crack. Ambassador Cho's smile widened, showing teeth that suddenly looked very sharp to the prey species surrounding him. "You assumed that what you saw was our military." Jinwoo activated his communication device and spoke two words that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. "Prometheus. Decloak." Outside the station, space itself seemed to tear. Open as the greatest warship humanity had ever built, dropped its stealth systems and revealed itself to the galaxy. The council chamber erupted into chaos as the Prometheus revealed itself in all its terrifying glory. On the holographic displays that had been showing human history, new images appeared, tactical readouts showing the massive warship that now dominated the space around their station. Admiral Park So-min appeared on the central communications screen, her image replacing the peaceful star field that had decorated the chamber's dome. She was standing on a bridge that looked like something from the aliens' worst nightmares, dark, efficient, and covered with weapon systems displays. "Greetings, Galactic Council," So-min said, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's communication systems. "I am Admiral Park So-min of the Earth Defense Force. I believe you've been having a conversation with my people." High Arbiter Velnox stared at the screen, his elegant features showing confusion and growing fear. Around the chamber, hundreds of alien representatives were making distress calls, trying to contact their home worlds, and attempting to activate emergency protocols that had never been designed for this kind of situation. "This is impossible," Velnox whispered. "Our sensors detected no ship of that size approaching our station." "Your sensors detected exactly what we wanted them to detect," Admiral So-min replied calmly. "Earth has been monitoring your communications for over a decade. We know about your technology, your society, and your complete lack of military capability. On the Prometheus Bridge, Chief Engineer Song Hae Jin was running a full systems check while monitoring the alien station's defenses. What she found was both impressive and pathetic at the same time. "Admiral," she reported, "their power systems are incredible. Clean fusion reactors with efficiency ratings we can only dream of. But they have no weapons, no shields, and no armor. It's like they built the most advanced passenger ship in the galaxy and forgot they might need to defend it." Somin nodded, unsurprised. Everything they had learned about these species suggested they were completely peaceful. It was both admirable and foolish at the same time. Back in the council chamber, Dr. Yoon Da-eun was explaining the situation to the increasingly panicked aliens. "You've spent 50,000 years developing technology for exploration, research, and comfort," she said, her voice cutting through the noise of distress calls and emergency signals. "Humanity spent the same time developing technology to kill things more efficiently." Commander Hyun-soo, who had been silent since the Prometheus revealed itself, finally found his voice. "You cannot threaten the entire Galactic Council. We represent billions of beings across thousands of worlds." "We're not threatening anyone," Captain Lee Jin-woo replied. "We're simply showing you what you're actually dealing with." On the communication screen, Admiral So-min was reviewing tactical data with her weapons officer. "Lieutenant Kim Bo-ram, show them our defensive capabilities." "Yes, Admiral." Activating shield demonstration. The Council Station's most powerful defensive systems suddenly came online, focusing their energy output on the Prometheus. It was an impressive display. Enough power to vaporize a small moon concentrated into tight energy beams that struck the human warship. The result was underwhelming. The Prometheus's shields flickered briefly, like a person brushing away a mosquito, then returned to their normal state. "Your defensive systems are quite sophisticated," Admiral So-min commented, as if she had just been complimented on her choice of tea. "We measured an output of approximately 4.7 terawatts. Very impressive for a peaceful civilization." Lieutenant Kim Bo-ram appeared on a smaller screen beside the Admiral. "For comparison, our shields are designed to withstand focused stellar output. Your station's entire defensive array is equivalent to about 0.003% of our minimum operational requirements." The numbers meant nothing to most of the aliens in the chamber, but Commander Han-soo understood them perfectly. His people's most powerful weapons were essentially useless against human defensive technology. "How is this possible?" he asked, his voice barely audible over the continuing chaos around him. "Simple," Dr. Da-eun replied. "You develop technology to make life more comfortable. We develop technology to end life more efficiently. Evolution shaped us differently." She gestured to the humans around her, all now revealed in their true armor and equipment. "Every human in this room is a soldier. Not because we chose to be, but because our species doesn't produce any other kind of person. We're all descendants of persistence hunters who survived by being more dangerous than everything else on our planet." Ambassador Cho stepped forward, his diplomatic demeanor unchanged, despite the revelation of his true nature. "High Arbiter, perhaps now would be a good time to demonstrate our offensive capabilities." On the Prometheus Bridge, Weapons Officer Kim Bo-ram was already preparing for the demonstration. She had selected a target, an uninhabited asteroid in the outer system that posed no threat to anyone. "Admiral, target acquired. One nickel-iron asteroid, approximately 2 kilometers in diameter, no life signs detected. Proceed with minimum power demonstration," So-min ordered. The weapon that fired from the Prometheus was unlike anything the aliens had ever imagined. It wasn't an energy beam or a missile. It was a solid projectile moving at a significant fraction of the speed of light. The asteroid, which had existed peacefully in its orbit for millions of years, simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next it was expanding cloud of vaporized metal and rock. In the council chamber, the silence was complete. Even the distress calls had stopped as every alien representative tried to comprehend what they had just witnessed. That was our lowest power setting, Lieutenant Kimbo Ram reported cheerfully. We call them planet crackers, though that's a bit of an exaggeration. They can only crack small planets. High Arbiter Velnox found himself sitting down heavily in his chair, something he had never done during an official council session. How many of those weapons do you have? On this ship? About 400, Admiral Soman replied, though we prefer not to use them in inhabited systems. The debris field can be quite troublesome for navigation. Dr. Da Yun decided this was a good time for another biology lesson. High Arbiter, your species and the others represented here evolved cooperation and harmony because that's what kept your ancestors alive. But humans evolved something different. She walked closer to the central platform, and Velnox instinctively leaned away from her. We evolved persistence, creativity, and what you might call spite. When something was bigger than us, we invented tools to kill it anyway. When something was faster than us, we learned to track it until it collapsed from exhaustion. When something was stronger than us, we worked together to bring it down. But most importantly, Captain Jinwoo added, when something threatened us, we didn't run away. We eliminated the threat. Commander Hyeon-soo was staring at the tactical displays, trying to understand how his carefully planned intimidation had turned into a demonstration of his own people's helplessness. Your ship, he said slowly. How long did it take you to build it? The Prometheus took about 15 years from design to completion, Admiral So-min replied. But we've been building ships like her for the past 30 years. This is just the flagship. The implications hit the alien commander like a physical blow. If humans had been building warships for 30 years, and if the Prometheus was just one of many... How many ships do you have? He whispered. Enough, was Jin Woo's simple reply. On the communications screen, Admiral So-min was reading from a datapad. According to our intelligence, the Galactic Council has approximately 10,000 ships spread across your 47-member species. Impressive number for a peaceful civilization. She looked up at the camera with what might have been a smile. Earth currently has 12,000 active warships, with production capacity to triple that number within 2 years if necessary. The number struck the Council chamber like a thunderbolt. Not only did humanity have more ships than the entire galactic civilization, they could build more of them faster than anyone had thought possible. But we're not here to conquer anyone, Ambassador Cho said, his diplomatic training finally showing its value. We're here to clarify the relationship between Earth and the Galactic Council. He gestured to the chaos around them. Hundreds of alien representatives still trying to process what they had learned. You sent us an ultimatum based on the assumption that we were a primitive, defenseless species that could be easily controlled. You were wrong. We are neither primitive nor defenseless, and we definitely cannot be controlled. High Arbiter Velnox finally managed to speak again. What do you want from us? Jin Woo exchanged glances with his team, then looked back at the alien leader. That's a very good question. What do we want from a galactic civilization that just tried to threaten us into slavery? The chamber fell silent again as hundreds of prey species waited to learn their fate from the apex predators, who had just revealed themselves. We want, Ambassador Cho said quietly, to have a proper conversation, one between equals. The emergency session of the Galactic Council that followed was unlike anything in their 50,000 years of recorded history. For the first time ever, they were negotiating with a species that could actually destroy them, and everyone in the chamber knew it. High Arbiter Velnox had managed to restore some semblance of order, though many of the smaller species representatives had fled to their ships and were already broadcasting warnings to their home worlds. The remaining aliens sat in nervous silence, watching the humans who stood calmly in the center of the chamber as if they owned it. "We wish to formally withdraw our ultimatum," Velnox announced, his melodious voice strained with stress. The Council clearly misunderstood humanity's position in the galactic community. Ambassador Cho nodded graciously, but his expression remained serious. "We appreciate the gesture, High Arbiter, but I'm afraid the damage has already been done. You threatened our species with slavery and gave us 72 hours to surrender our freedom. That's not something we can simply forget." Commander Hyun-soo, who had been quietly conferring with his military advisors, stepped forward. "What are your terms?" "Our terms are simple," Captain Lee Jin-woo replied. "Complete withdrawal of all Council forces from human space, formal recognition of human territorial sovereignty, and establishment of mutual non-aggression pacts with all member species." "That seems reasonable," Velnox said quickly, relief evident in his voice. "We can draft those agreements immediately." "We're not finished," Dr. Yoon Da-eun said, her voice cutting through the chamber like a blade. "There's something else we need to discuss." She activated her holographic projector again, filling the chamber with images that made several aliens gasp in horror. Vast shapes moving through deep space, clouds of darkness that seemed to devour stars, structures that defied physics and reason. "These are deep space monitoring images from our long-range sensors," she explained. "Things that exist in the empty spaces between galaxies, things that your people have never encountered because you've never ventured far enough from home to find them." On the communication screen, Admiral Park So-min was reviewing similar data with her science team. "Our deep space exploration program has identified 7 different extinction-level threats approaching this galactic region over the next century. Rogue artificial intelligences, cosmic parasites, reality-warping anomalies, and things we don't even have names for yet." High Arbiter Velnox stared at the images with growing horror. "Why are you showing us this?" "Because," Ambassador Cho said quietly, "this is why humanity developed the way we did. Earth isn't a peaceful world, High Arbiter. It's a world where evolution created creatures specifically designed to hunt and kill other creatures. We became the dominant species by being more dangerous than everything else on our planet." Dr. Dayun gestured to the terrifying images floating around them. "These things out there in the dark, they're exactly the kind of threats that shaped our evolution. And now they're coming here." Colonel Shin Dong-hyun stepped forward, his armor gleaming under the chamber's soft lights. "Your species have spent 50,000 years developing art, science, philosophy, and technology for peaceful purposes. It's beautiful, and we respect that. But it's also made you completely helpless against certain kinds of dangers." "What are you proposing?" Commander Hyun-soo asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. "A partnership," Jin-woo replied. "You continue doing what you do best, advancing science, creating beauty, building a better civilization. We'll do what we do best, dealing with things that want to destroy that civilization." The chamber erupted in whispered conversations as alien representatives discussed this unexpected offer among themselves. Many of them were terrified of the humans, but they were even more terrified of the cosmic horrors that had been revealed to them. Admiral So-min's voice carried clearly through the noise. "Our analysis suggests that these threats have been the reason why your expansion has been so limited. Your species instinctively avoid certain regions of space, certain types of star systems, certain cosmic phenomena. Your prey instincts have been keeping you safe from things you didn't even know existed. But those same instincts also keep you trapped," Dr. Da-yoon added. "You could have colonized twice as much of the galaxy if you hadn't been unconsciously avoiding the dangerous regions that humans would happily explore because we don't run from danger. We eliminate it." High Arbiter Velnox was studying the threat analysis data, his elegant features growing more troubled with each image. "These rogue AI networks, they appear to be approaching from the galactic rim. How long do we have?" The nearest threat will reach the outer colonies in approximately 18 months, Admiral So-Min replied. After that, they tend to spread exponentially. Based on our projections, your entire civilization has maybe 5 years before you're dealing with systematic extinction events. Unless, Colonel Shin added with a slight smile, someone deals with them first. Commander Hyun-soo found himself in the strange position of hoping that the terrifying apex predators would agree to protect his people. What would this partnership entail exactly? Ambassador Cho activated his own holographic display, showing star charts and fleet movements. Humanity takes responsibility for galactic security. We patrol the dangerous regions, investigate cosmic anomalies, and eliminate threats before they reach civilized space. In return, we get access to your scientific and technological databases and formal recognition as an independent member of the galactic community. You want to be our protectors, Velnox said slowly. We want to be your immune system, Jinwoo corrected. You are the galaxy's brain, creating knowledge and beauty and wonder. We're the galaxy's antibodies, destroying anything that tries to harm the body. Dr. Da-Yun brought up another set of images, human colonies being established in the dangerous regions that no other species would approach. We're already moving into the threat zones. These are perfect environments for human settlements, dangerous, challenging, requiring constant vigilance and adaptation. The galactic rim, the dark nebulae, the quantum storm regions, Admiral So-Min added. All the places your people instinctively avoid are exactly where humans thrive. We're not asking you to change your nature. We're asking you to let us express ours. The chamber fell silent as the aliens contemplated this offer. It was terrifying and reassuring at the same time, trading their freedom for protection, but gaining protectors who were genuinely capable of keeping them safe. There is one condition, Ambassador Cho said, his diplomatic tone becoming slightly sharper. This partnership is voluntary for your individual species, but it's mandatory for anyone who wants to threaten us. We will not tolerate another ultimatum like the one you gave us today. High Arbiter Velnox nodded slowly. And if we refuse this partnership? Then you're on your own, Jinwoo replied simply. We'll defend our own territory and let you handle the cosmic horrors however you see fit. But don't expect us to come running when those rogue AIs start converting your star systems into computational matrices. The vote was closer than anyone expected, but the partnership agreement was ratified by a margin of 31-16. Most of the herbivorous species voted in favor, while some of the more prideful races initially refused. But as more detailed threat analyses were shared, and as the first human patrol fleets began deploying to the galactic rim, the holdouts quickly changed their minds. 6 months later, Commander Hyun-soo found himself aboard a human patrol ship, wearing the uniform of humanity's first alien liaison officer. He was watching through the bridge windows as the destroyer Retribution approached something that had been giving the Council nightmares for decades, a dark matter construct that devoured everything in its path. Contact in 30 seconds, reported. The ship's captain, a young human woman named Lee Soo-bin, who seemed to treat cosmic horrors like a mild inconvenience. Weapons ready, shields at maximum. Hyun-soo watched in amazement as the human crew prepared for battle with the same casual efficiency they might use to prepare lunch. No fear, no hesitation, just professional competence in the face of something that could unmake reality itself. Captain, he said quietly, aren't you afraid? Soo-bin looked at him with genuine confusion. Afraid? Sir, this is what we were born to do. The dark matter construct detected their approach and began reshaping itself into something resembling a weapon. It was a sight that would have sent any council species fleeing in terror, but the humans simply adjusted their attack vectors and opened fire. The battle lasted exactly 14 minutes. When it was over, the threat that had haunted an entire sector for centuries was nothing but dispersing particles and fading energy signatures. Threat eliminated, Su Bin reported to Fleet Command. Proceeding to next patrol point, Haiyan Su realized that he was witnessing the birth of a new age in galactic history. For 50,000 years, his people had lived in fear of the unknown dangers that lurked in the dark spaces between stars. Now, for the first time, those dangers should be afraid of them, because now they had humans,